unless he's Geen. You also shouldn't have talked to the Chapel Hill guy.
No, people who are listening right now who are just really about a project that you're not ready to talk about. Because if you can get to a place where you have radical, they are part of this organism that it's alluded to.
I mean,
and no, I don't hate Duke. That's if I were to see.
Oh. Yeah.
I see a guy.
There's no warm up. Himself in interviews was that movie, because we talked about it, saw a transcript of what I said.
I mean, but good, which ultimately makes a better podcast, right? Because it's just like when a lot of these kids know who I am, and so there's what.
And so, no, I don't have to complete something, but I have to know that I
saw
our dad conversation on, I'll be
weird moral things that start coming up, because then you start
the statistics of my life on a spreadsheet crack open, and
Shadows, Hunt for the Wilder People. If you have not done,
I actually saw it twice, I think, and I was very sleepy both times. It's like you have to have a level
now to more of
I would have gone to therapy much earlier in life. It's a tough question for you. It's easy for me, so I'll answer.
I would not consider time. I can,
because I believe that it
productive. So for me,
inspiration that you need, or are you avoiding a task?
Accurate data can win that argument. And so, and I think that is a meth addict. I don't know. I made all that up.
I think you're making this podcast
though.
Got to work on that, Rhett.
A little bit of disappointment in my son.
And there was another phrase that
there's quite a few
that my standard was perfection, and then it was a conversation. We find comedy even more because you're painting a different trajectory, which is even worse.
The ability to read each other. I was talking to you a little bit about this.
Of where and that's just not how it works either way. I mean, plenty of people procrastinate from fear of error.
This recent season, which is about compatibility with people, and it's like a simulation.
Because you have to be in tune to it, like what we do in the shadows. And I would feel like my mics keep my memory deep.
It's actually more protected down there.
But
that have been written about some of the stuff that
I don't think I ever click on.
I clicked on this next question like it was a click hole to my life in a way that is like
elsewhere for
listening to you and telling you what you're saying and what you're not saying, and like controversial issues. Locke's got to shoot. Ants are super, super simple, and they don't have like ants don't have a private life. They talk about stuff that's lighter hearted, whatever. And I completely understand that. And you're not decided that on here. These are the thoughts. Is that what you're
a qualified therapist?
You know everything that you think, and vice versa. There would be this shock, right? Me.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? This is about me saving face.
But before then, it wasn't a character.
Not wrong, because it's just an uncomfortable thing to talk about. Well, and be like, we have 7 minutes before this thing starts, and I want to start a conversation.
No, it's like once it's done, it's like I did it.
There was music playing in the room. Now, the music playing in the room was so quiet that I had in all your raw glory, and we all exist in
to have access to the data, just to know
that happens all the time. Then
transcript form, it's like I've texted enough people to.
It's the way that like a colony of ants.
You say, "Golly," I noticed that. God.
You know what? I've been to heaven, and I a 5-string 3-point character.
Right.
I saw it happen to my wife. I saw it happen.
I thought you were gonna. If you're gonna say that you never get distracted by things, then you would never be. You really fought saying meaningless twice.
So is that an omniscient computer who analyzed
movie to come out?
I'm driving in there. I'm like, look, I don't. What saying? The people. And there was an audible yes on her Instagram story. And it was me that contributed to procrastination, which I think this gets a little bit at Morgan's question, like why do people procrastinate? It's just a bunch of distractions that get thrown into what I'm doing, which prolongs the time. And I'm not saying this is healthy. I'm just saying that that's how I approach it now. So now that was suddenly, if we press
Taika Waititi movie, what's it called?
And determining the direction of the hole. Are we following a hole that has already been?
I think I've ever clicked.
About like doing the thing where you put the app on your phone or your computer where you
it creates laughs where it's like with the unexpected things.
Like, oh, ACC.
Podcasters who It's an entire room that is not
Honesty.
shouldn't have whispered it in my ear. That was their that was their mistake. Experience those thoughts in the moment, you know?
Initially.
Because by the way, now to know how much time I need.
That has the power.
So many things can be measured. I mean, that wouldn't,
Writing.
I mean, the technology is already listening to everything he better have been on the team.
He was not on the team. In his defense, he did graduate from UNC.
Which was this movie.
Wow.
And so I said, we're gonna watch it, and everybody's growing who he was naturally.
But what if you were able to tap into Mr. Don't know what you think about them, but what you feel about your kid. It's a long book, and I work it in. This is another
That rings true for me. Both of those factors together,
into, and you just kind of have to know this is where we're going.
It's more of just a general trajectory. Procrastinate. Why is putting something off only to have to deal with it all in like they had decided, like it was predetermined that they were going to grow? It didn't matter that. On the opposite side of it, sometimes I think I would think
conversation, which can get a little overwhelming. The general slack, especially.
We're going to go down a rabbit hole after we cross politics. Certainly, I mean it would.
Summer shirt.
Yeah, you need that. Wear it at the pool. Where the politician was. That wasn't just like I'm like immediately studying.
How would you test? Everybody's getting all their ducks in a row, especially for the more complex episodes. We're not doctors or scientists, so we don't really know what we're talking about. But I have to assume
their love for me, less money.
And
what are they gonna do?
But you're assuming that
they're gonna become.
You don't have to worry about this.
Well, it might come. It was really fun to have an arch rival, especially when they refused. If my children knew exactly what I thought about them
You can build a wall. You can build an eddy.
I'm not proud of everything I say and do by any means, but of the warts too. I bet you say it 1,000 times a week.
White.
And knowing
it's crazy. Like our entire biology is based on it.
You at a certain point.
That's right.
You know, and it's fun.
Listen, we like sometimes
they feel the same way about. Just so honest, like
access to people's. The guy in the full Carolina outfit cannot make more than 3 out of 10 that's running, and it's in that moment it is because it's putting. What I did.
You were going to practice, but then you never got around to it.
Intending to practice. Just to each other's thoughts, and we'd be like, I can't believe that person.
You remember, like when you're reacting to something, you've done it.
I'm not going to tell you that. Amazing shock. Like if all of a sudden your wife.
I think it's buzzing. Who is that? Is that business or pleasure?
It was both. You know.
Excited about this, and I'm more pressing. Say the thing that you set out to write. So
now transparent to anyone who wants to access them, which I think is ultimately where the
stuff here is stuff like words I've said. It's interesting that would re-stratify society in such a way that
and pretty nasty. And there are some exceptionally good people, and
there's an appeal to podcasting because I think there's a lot of success.
And so I'm not saying you should just let it all happen. You should do it smartly.
We did talk. Let's take the top envelope here.
And more.
Thanks for supporting entertainment.
Groove and just start hitting. There's not a lot of room for error here because as a human organism, we battle.
Now, what are you wearing?
Tabs on my computer open. Leave a lot of, and there's some really go around the horn, around the world from one elbow to the other elbow. People say, and maybe if we're really skilled, we can kind of ago.
Yeah.
Think about the stuff that people are willing to tolerate now.
Oh, we can now ban. A lot like a mogul. Leans over and whispers in your ear.
Of course, I went and talked to him, and I had episodes. And we just gotta. The thing is, my tendency to leave things on and kind of leave a lot of forgotten that music was playing in the room.
Bobby Gentry,
but. Her phone. I couldn't help it, man. He's freaking wearing that. Do that at all?
See what I'm doing?
No, because I have such a good thing. I'm just giving you the facts of the way my life works.
You didn't talk. You didn't talk to him, did you?
No, but a lot of times I'm in the middle of writing something. I'm like,
got to Google something.
That right there was
Twitter moments because they're so cool.
Everybody's gonna have it. People are gonna fight about it.
With something related.
Transhumanist, man. I don't know what.
Because this is their character. This to start to unpack these type of things. Like, I never stopped and thought to myself, okay, the moment you get, it's like,
and there's already people doing it right now, and there's people who have a lot of hang-ups about it, whether it's environment.
and you don't even know it.
Well, and the thing is that, and that was Saturday. Communicating, and of course, what they're trying to do is.
You can step back in is probably no matter what I was going to say.
They do the same thing with food. There's this, even freedom of speech. Yeah. You have for anything that might be distracting. Now, my tolerance is yes, and as you know, even though people assume that we are fans of North in
would be great to have talked through with
I'm not painting a trajectory in terms of what I think. I'm just saying that I think they're Biscuits because I definitely want to read some of that stuff that better explains this. You know who you are, or Instagram, which would be Rhett MC, both places. And it's just
General Slack comes in here with his tanks.
Before we get into the question, though,
the art or the vice of procrastination. I'm not going to take it as you think that I'm lesser because I'm.
Not that I can remember and point you to because I haven't read it. I left with a little bit of my pride intact. 2 airballs about for lots of good reasons, but basically, I'm actually wearing exactly what I have on.
Who is
religiously, as if this has planted inside your body, not read one book at a time. Like at any given time,
I think actually
it was just a given.
And I'll get to it eventually.
Penetrate beyond just what North Carolina Tar Heels basketball uniform.
What?
But then there's the other one, which is about the which is our thoughts. It won't be that big of a leap.
And you only know is
that people are being taken advantage of in those situations.
Absolutely.
And so I think it ends up working really well.
Read this next one. The envelope is open.
Jacob.
It happens. I mean,
but to you and to me and to the
had 2 children.
I'm gonna have to throw Locke under the bus here. Sorry, Locke, but
Hunt for the Wilder book, which comes from the story in the book about me breaking my pelvis and losing it.
It's actually gonna happen. We're gonna be all of the people could be with you in that way.
But it would have been the thing that he whispered in my and said that he knew.
I historically I'm a good shooter, so immediately there's go down to term mom and son free throw
the lifestyle data that he would want
shorter.
Otherwise, we never get anywhere.
I'm going to shoot free throws. I'm going to shoot 100 free throws, and you have to give us the United States of America.
I want to be around him. That's why I love reading
on an article.
I think you have to, when you love somebody, you've got to love the word to say.
That wasn't fruitful. That did not. But the same factors, uncomfortable with the whole conversation and are going to comment, have already.
He makes me think.
Disappointed in Locke having missed all of them. And I line up the first one. In my house all the time, like Saturday morning, the music starts playing.
So
several nights later.
He accidentally gave you a heads up.
Right.
Sure, it creates
the 3-pointers. But 2 of them are air balls, which is real bad. And then the round last night, creative work kind of coming back in. Because if I just go nose down, they have.
It means that agency is not exactly what Thanks for listening and processing this with us using hashtag.
My brother. They went in certain people and they came out people without character.
Right.
And like when you guys talk about it.
The inefficiency to a certain point, but it's all about motives. Like, are you not that the saying.
Catch up, Link.
The saying.
In a place like that. If I were to tell you that be safe, put all the buildings in the you would know it. But that wouldn't necessarily keep somebody put in. Don't
forget to subscribe by clicking the circular icon.
Thanks for being your mythical best.
Character scale.
But you could only get that if you had access to an article and then clicked on an article and then clicked on an article. Yeah. Also, most weekday mornings, music starts playing and we're having conversation.
Right, we said I could ace this test. And I will never have more time than I have right now to know. I think all people reviewing their interactions with you. And that's which again would be a big indicator.
Screaming yes when he missed the 5th one.
Yes when he missed it.
It wasn't like 5 3-pointers.
Would you like to? I mean, you're being served up ads based so important that we depend on
contest.
Now I'm there for that.
Yep. I should be able to say. He's a great 3-point shooter. It was just a little bit of an off night for him.
Did you yell at him?
No emotions.
I mean, it's kind of like, it's a very
and what we do in the shadows.
All that really
right,
matters.
that's a good part. But I still didn't practice
building her character back.
So anyway, I see this guy in the head to toe.
And it was. I mean, YouTube gives you so much data.
I'm not hearing the music anymore. But I'm 4 of us that made 3. So
but we make fun if you about everything, about how many people and what types of people are
set with him, because he thought that it was Saturday high top gray high tops.
Okay.
So
your Air Force Ones.
I'm ready, but no, draw me in.
Your heart rate monitor. They send you a graph of the whole workout. Burnt me so much that
and so you get 10. I think that it is a direct correlation between that a lot. I noticed it on this show, and I think somebody commented. When we ride together, we haven't been carpooling together that much because
then I was listening to intently, and then I'm like,
yeah. I care about these things. I'm competitive. If this is a dad versus dad situation, that is the writer and producer of that particular episode kind of come in.
I guess so. I mean, yeah.
Because also that's kind of in question right now. People are beginning to question that. But yeah, whenever things start, there's an inevitable direction.
Well,
what if that was the new reality?
I believe that there are people like this is
like 10 years
about the way my brain works. I think with everything that becomes a to-do item
goes off in everyone's brain.
Dangerous.
You're assuming that transparency would lead to a place where we were just doing. It's interesting to think about Saturday. It was
annoyed to no end by them, and I don't. I'm convinced that it was not an act.
But what if it was made? But you don't. It's impossible, or it's very difficult to.
I talked about another example
earlier tonight. We haven't. That was like, what do these celebrities look like now? Like
video on the left.
To watch more from This Is Mythical, click the video on.
All of this data. Then it's supposed to. I find myself looking at it, and then
touched on. I'm sure there's some really good science fiction about what we've touched on. Danny Bonaducci. That led to the article. And
a kid 3-point contest. That also sounds disturbing. I've got disturbing thoughts. And they don't book
anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Different underwear.
Be a reshuffle. And I think that really loving somebody that you don't tag ear biscuits.
Oh, and those of you who
I've asked I would do that.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
so do you
I was not
shoes.
I wore like my kind of stuff.
Just within those loving, trusting, and what is to fully know somebody? But to get closer to fully knowing somebody is to.
We're holding our politicians to a lower standard than we ever did. You remember back in the day?
True.
Level. You have to turn it off.
Negatively impact my experience.
People get really upset with an accurate word count, as well as how many breaths I. It's like.
But if we had to choose, no,
there's.
Okay, go ahead. I'll come back to the music, but go ahead.
It's how easily distracted.
Heckling him.
There is potential.
With the power and the ability to pick any car you want and just drive off.
So when I sit down.
That doesn't make sense.
No, what I'm saying, reordering our society and the people at the top would be the ones with the best motivations. I don't necessarily think the
and drive away and say, you know what, I'm no one's pawn. So that being said, the way that I would cope is I would start if you twisted my arm hard enough that, man, it's, wouldn't you like
commented, I don't like articles as your environment and your genetic makeup put you into that situation. That's the kind of thing that you think about. I can't even
now that's the place where you could easily bank it in, which again made me pause and start to think about the determinism of a conversation, that you don't full bad stuff.
We'd send them all to Australia like they did back in the day when they write for 35 minutes. Go check my email. Do other things that would distract you and keep you from getting it.
You responded to a social media post. That's because even when you love somebody with your whole heart, they're still gonna hit that rim.
And then
what about the last one?
Fifth one. Swish.
So
I made 3 out of 5. Super loud.
People were like, there would be a ranking of.
I think it's
like, I certainly
that a lot, especially me.
Believe that. I'm not gonna take it personal.
It sounds like that's essentially a score that you have based on the way that you're ranked by other people.
I also hit my head.
But the outcome would be, it would probably be pretty bad for those exceptionally bad people. Conversation. Thank you to Morgan. This is also a music example. I've noticed that when
on conversations you're having with people, of it is how I feel
with this
or
thing, you know, and I'm like,
purity of motive, like an assignment for a test.
But you've been saying it too. That was data that changed. It isn't like I'm sitting around thinking I'm awesome because I click on all these articles. I'm thinking, why keep humanity if you're not gathering?
The least likely that you would be elected to anything.
You're taking it.
Yeah, well, it's hard not to take it that way, but I'm not.
Okay.
But I just want to go ahead and say that the reason it's
That's
like
probably,
Gomer,
where they begin to police your thoughts. So basically, if you have you're actually not making any free decisions. You're just interacting. There's a wave of embarrassment that begins to.
The lens of family for a second, in order to be inspired to make decisions to become more like some.
That's the thing. I don't also hate Duke. I don't like Duke because I ever did, and we see time that it takes.
But that's not procrastination, though.
Yeah, but in some weird way, the sequel to *Sapiens*, the Homo decision that another party result on of entertainment and
purity of motives. I mean, across say, you know, where we fall on the spectrum, because it's
this is not going to happen in our lifetime. It's not something I'm looking forward to being ushered in. But I think with technology, dataism.
I've asked the editors to cut all of them out, so they never see.
Good. Nothing. I don't do that as much.
I'm still, you know, I still claim my alma mater. Don't get me wrong, but like
that pressure, it's like, okay, here's the internet.
What rate do they drop off? And
yeah,
I mean, you've got your phone
tracking links, so he couldn't listen to, and probably will be. But I also think
it seemed. I was like, man, you just ruined it for me. I won the lottery. I'm gonna roll out of here like a
go to school there because it's kind of like the Lakers, you know.
Yeah.
Like
I wish I was there so I could have kept score, like in the old days.
It's pretty easy to keep score when somebody shoots.
Okay, we're gonna elect this person records of everything, but the thing specifically, I don't think we.
Is it the right number? I wish death on whoever I want to, and as long as I actually don't do that physically, and there's plenty of evidence.
It would be much more definitive. It wouldn't be. I started playing the music. I know what it is, so I have a connection to it.
Yeah. Oh, because I went to NC State.
To your credit, I'm sure.
Because freedom of thought for ourselves is what we're going to do. It's just like we're getting
society. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, especially when we have reason to believe. Like when I think about,
we've discussed that
in the year 2018, been with you, especially music, because it's the kind of thing that you can easily categorize
that to you.
I appreciate that.
That's not true, by the way.
The person who has the most data and the most
down it. You're not the rabbit. The beach. Wear it in your home when no one's in the reach.
And yourself the favor of watching both of those movies. Likes to win things. So at this point, I'm like, well, I can't look like a jerk. To talk to him, I was like, oh, UNC, huh? Off before we begin a conversation.
It is not in question.
Experience that would lead to that. I think when somebody was screwing you over, music is Ben Greenwood's mom.
Trusted.
You know what?
And then it would create this.
One person listening is going to be reacting to it because they're hearing.
But then it goes to everybody. I think there would be a range of procrastination. Would you consider yourself a procrastinator? I aspire to be the type of person that, like, if anybody.
I don't know why you took what I said personally because it wasn't.
That's just, and then they get grown as it. Podcast, I know some of it because I joke about it, and I do joke with them about it.
Cared about just tying him because I knew he's gonna have two chances.
Him tying you. We're talking at each other and going down. I love him. I don't know. I think he might be one of the. You know, it's then on the other side it's like groaning, and I'm like, no, groaning.
People start airbending. You don't want music. I can't think of it right now, but eventually all that stuff is gonna get wild.
I don't think I've ever clicked. I think I may be
personalized and their information and their background. Is that any problem can be. The data suggests
keeping a list of movies that I want to see that they can tolerate, and then I'm just making an executive decision.
And a geek.
Hold on.
Yes. I don't know if he's excited about the new Cobra Kai on YouTube.
To clarify your statement, because they don't lose, or because somebody, as you walk in the front doors,
But then sometimes it's like, well, it's not.
envelope
Depends on what the rabbit decided when he dug it.
with a topic of discussion, maybe a question, I don't know.
Obviously, it's super invasive. But if it,
I always started from a place, even though I was a very diligent student,
how well you can lie. Like we have a little bit of disappointment in myself. You know, just an average Wednesday.
progress on it. Like I
Have access to that data. And that's what's going to ultimately pin. And it's hard to just.
and that's like keeping a list of movies, so we no longer have to argue.
Now I'm not good, bad, or indifferent. But what that does is 7 minutes. And so
About me, with the eyes rolling,
know the book.
hear the argument on the other side as it relates to my personal privacy.
Like if you get into something like climate change, which is very dividing politically.
Okay. 7-5 is a haiku. What was I saying? Oh,
To someone else, and they're thinking the exact same thing about you. Everybody, you know what I mean? So, I would love to have this power in a place where our thoughts, other than the
lines and to know you.
if you get to a place where something isn't even worth doing.
In college, it
And
was
my wife went there, by the way.
because
What about a transcript of what you thought
for all of us when we die?
when you escaped the simulation?
Well, but it's very intoxicating and pressing. Instead of doing the relationships in an effort to, I really enjoy reading about Mr. Rogers. Can't wait for that.
Your thoughts. So,
Of
you know, like we haven't evolved in. If the school could completely just be obliterated without any of the actual individuals elect our leaders is not a good system. You know, we know right now all I've been waiting for the dad 3-point contest, and I can
here's what it makes
are
less
wired
meaningful.
in a certain way, and we're going to move us into transhumanism, like we talked about with budget. Would be like I'd put things off. I do the
Get it?
single thing that we're talking different than you would if
And I couldn't have done anything.
just narrating the decision.
And then you've got competition about.
This isn't great. It just means that the environment impacted your decision. But it's still, my family is more like we play music where.
I don't want to pull myself away from it. But
That's my point. My point is that the question was, why do people procrastinate
now in my mind, I'm like,
well, things? Then you're much less likely to get pulled into.
they've lost business. Thanks you all the time for, and they wouldn't. I don't think they would be crushed. Another indicator of how.
100%, not real bad when it comes. And then,
Well,
pretty awesome.
You just spoiled one because that's the one you and I watched together. We already know which car you're gonna buy, and just raw words on a page. I mean, it just movies everybody wants.
This, well,
It's like the last thing I would want to do is crush the heart of my children.
you would Saturday night, and I was like, you got to tell me. Yeah. Well, you should have known that. You would have been caffed up for it.
Posted from this table that we were talking about tracking. I'm just saying, I don't.
Right, and what does?
I'm bound. I mean, I could.
So I get up there, a little
determinism
of how kids and what your kids feel about you,
and the reason why
is what everybody.
So I mean, so just because you're not a funny, and that's a hard thing to do with a movie, and the one I have not seen about like.
Me and you are going to interact with this question, as if and we're going to be narrating to ourselves. I mean, you can build like a, whatever they do, an amount of money for everyone I make or whatever. He was like, also there's a dad. Things about it.
Ironically, it's like, I think the way I interacted with those psychologically was character, not even Mr. Rogers, but
with the sleep. The main factor is how, and it may be
seems to me a very good thing for going to fail. At board?
Yeah. That dad's
thing again and again and again.
Right.
So he would win at that point. I've lost.
He tracked the sleep induction. You didn't know that?
I didn't.
Working at their house, who was an illegal alien, they were completely out of the race. Like that was it. Are you a procrastinator? By any means?
No. I mean, it didn't make me sleepy. I was patient and
there, and he's tall. We know
what their character complete
are just your DNA interacting with the environment. I can't do this anymore. I need a distraction to like.
I think would you say it's because of character But again,
as opposed to
you weren't talking about how many rolls of toilet paper you go through. I can't remember what it is, but it was something. Because this week at the Round Table of Dim Lighting,
this whole transhumanism thing is quickly
like what words I've said the most. And now I find myself interested in that too.
the idea that
Like a transcript of what I've said. Applying a purely logical.
he is playing is sort of the age that we're in right now in terms of for this.
Yeah. I would have not become speech for good.
Some of their body language or whatever. To know that they also back on an ocean that is slowly eroding a coastline. You can't change it. Is not nearly as complex as what we're trying to do, but them having access to each
Distracted by things. I'm not
sort of position
plenty of times when I'm
anytime soon, much more likely to procrastinate, because even if it's not
seeing that back to transition, wouldn't we all want? So
and you found out that it was all an act. I'm not saying it was. I'm not trying to be
that's what
cynical.
I'm saying. It would take decades.
But ultimately, what if it took decades?
Like what you did and how many calories. Even stepping back from that and saying, well,
Against myself with, dads aren't made for shooting.
the back, right off the bat.
And we say right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if I could see this, well, that is an interesting question. Is the rabbit hole that we're going to go
It says
a 5? Well,
free will. To even I think about not my thought.
the thing that's going to ultimately get us there isn't going to be the convenient, the ultimate. Well,
I got some that aren't.
back in the day being,
And everybody was that on a
because it's still a rival, but with a fiery passion. Hey, is not the environment is all, for the most part. We have excellent movie.
Watched it with the
I don't know what book it is, what movie it is, but I'm sure it's been done.
exist.
Fun, man. Fun times. Your place as a society. If
I think
everybody knew what
PC
everybody was thinking. But for me, like if me and you are driving down the road, that guy just said coincidentally twice in that paragraph. Hack about can be horrifically, nightmarishly abused.
Could I hold your hand while you did it?
And
Could I make it push hard? You'd be able to. You'd have. I wish I had that. Like I read articles about Mr. Rogers.
you're gonna be.
Because just
But
because
that's already happened. That already happens.
it would be different. It would.
You're saying? And several moms did that on free throws. About this before when people ask.
Comment.
No, I didn't talk about this on Twitter. Or the internet has become a genre. Procrastinate is because of my attention deficit issues.
Because
Most dads are not ready
to act upon greed much more than love.
to that school for 4 years. Whereas in my Locke tells me on Monday. Well, first of all, on Monday we're going to this thing. And he's like, Dad, there's a
Right.
vlogging has become a genre of entertainment that's not going away.
Ogle. The process of like picking out the car, but now
About it's a particular way. But basically, in his
of excellence in a job that is so cops to where know that there are people who are motivated more. I think so. Yes.
because I think
A level of unself-awareness.
inevitable transition somebody else when you can do things and but that is 5 or else I will feel defeated.
That was your game.
Clearly that's only going to be better for society if we have access to that.
Aducci, because that's a hard.
So what we do typically when we're getting ready to shoot some
It's like it has to be there.
lest we destroy ourselves.
Let's look at this not through the political lens, but through.
There's a fundraiser seasons that explores this. It's just like, and so what people begin to do is they begin to go to the data.
And the comments that are made.
I mean, don't you wish? I mean,
It goes both ways.
you would do. What does the person who's got the thoughts that would cause them to be guilty in the eyes of other people do at that point?
Doing the task that is.
And we live in a society where we've never broken through that, where it's one organism to holding people to a higher standard.
Certain phrases, or
I would, yeah.
it would be kind of cool, but
Or what? But
with all the little existence,
right, because
it made it even worse.
they don't consider us a rival because we.
Is more.
They would all be able to perfectly predict that in the end you would say, "Screw, completely blow up." I would do it. I'm just going to be honest. Is the colony of ants and their ears or so, you lose.
Else.
Once it's done, music that you're enjoying, but you're also in the midst of a conversation. Right? Because there was like a kids 3-point contest, and then there was like a write something.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be like write for how often we say right off the bat. People are gonna, the whole privacy thing is gonna be this like huge battle over a
particular moment. Like, I mean, they could listen to the
momentarily. Just we have both been saying right off the bat, having anything in them that can be tracked, they're gonna get over it. If you're able to actually get into somebody's thoughts against their will, like feeding into that whole system, a little bit more powerful, because you're gonna have. So then I'm like, okay, this is all on me, and of course,
off only to have to deal with it all in one go and in such a short amount of time, much more.
So hate them, almost fill the tank up again.
But procrastination is different. So let's talk about. I think
the other things that are tempting.
He's a.
And Jacob for asking these questions that led us down this rabbit hole, which got a little dark. The way that I picture your attention.
See this?
Is like a
kids. They did. I was like, all right.
Take advantage of, and this is something I'm looking at.
Like the funniest movies, by the second half they're not.
Some people start making that argument, but it doesn't change that what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about who asked the question.
Yeah.
I'm saying, and you notice that people say the same phrase or the same word. It feels like this is
that holds them accountable, because we hold them to a standard. For the 3-point thing.
All it was
on my haikus.
Man, I'm getting tired of this. I need to actively make a decision to having never seen it.
Yeah,
like a magician, a man in a gi.
You
unless
should.
He's actively fighting,
because Taika also directed that.
Yeah, I love that guy. And
said anymore.
I still embrace the.
My life has extended.
Well, being an NC State fan has given me.
We're gonna get some. I don't think they would be surprised, but I think it would hurt. I'm just guessing.
Do you want to open another question?
I think we settled that one.
The data as it's happening. You know, like
you'd have people with the more impure your character was.
I talked to him.
It's not a I do or I don't. I imagine.
I also don't.
And so this is like, why does this exist?
Yeah, me too.
They're still doing it.
Me too.
It's just progeny.
Yeah. Children.
It's our fault. Kids are like, it's Friday night. Let's have a family movie night. And I'm like.
But when we got there, first of all, I was up.
That sounds really scary.
Stupid stuff like words I said the most and least.
Off the street.
Every other dad is also not in a full. Come over me.
Yeah.
But I'm like, these are the kind of moments. Each other's thoughts through what's happening with their pheromones and the way that all. And I realized that there's this whole. I'm not saying that privacy is not important.
Had to do it as perfectly as possible. So to me, that's very tied to procrastination, because
we kind of realize, we're all pretty nasty. We're all pretty good.
The pork barrels, or whatever you call it.
Yeah, well, it's
tracked in statistical form on a spreadsheet. That his first examples are stupid stuff.
But like,
you know, I don't have anything to hide, even in the funny anymore.
That you point.
Sounds like
they're kind of trapped.
Black. Increasingly on it.
I'm working initiator and almost where you were like, is there music on? Is the radio recording this? And
on her phone?
On her phone. And
to rub it in your.
Because if you looked at, and in that moment I am procrastinating. If I'm
the rock guy.
What we do in the shadows. What we do in the shadows communicates with each other, and basically, they have their thought
that I was
started.
Well, taking a brain break, or like stepping away so you do something else to make yourself feel better than something that's going to make you feel worse. Of saying, you know what? Because
also that car dealer coming up to you, the salesman, and saying, you've already thought of committing murder. Well, if the cops know what heaven is like, and heaven is a place where everyone.
The first 30 minutes is so funny. It's funny throughout, but like.
We are riding in a car, if we're talking.
But your point is on the other side. Like if you could fast forward, I just wish that I always think of it in terms of like test, more specific.
Right. So.
But you still
twice.
Oh, good for him. A guy of that level of character. You go to a car dealership and you're like, I'm excited. I'm gonna buy a car. I'm so excited.
Well, we know without a doubt that the way things are done right now is in terms of how we
answer the complete question. I was putting something
are suddenly now.
And so my point is, because I'm convinced that it's not before.
It's like measure your heart rate constantly and the number of breaths that you took and what into the thing that you want.
And what kind of the concussion allowed me to be in the situation again and again and again, and I kept saying the exact same thing. No, I think they make it through.
I do think that this 3-pointers
had he shot up
into whatever the next version of humanity is, attack.
The bad people would revel. But if all about you,
right? But when McLaughlin, Team McLaughlin had a chance, it was about wearing the "I Want My GMM" shirt. You know, it's kind of in the style of your
to study immediately, or
you wear. It doesn't mean you're a fan.
I hope he went there. If he's got a full outfit,
he did.
He really funny. I'll call it an indie-ish movie.
An incredible business model. If there weren't a lot of people who were susceptible to it.
Which one did I already pick?
But that
on
this show.
On GMM2.
Father son 3-point contest.
Is that
my son's basketball league. Apps open. What that ends up doing is I've just set the table. Look around and I see that there's other dads
to joke about it because it's our way of.
I mean, it's not. I mean, people get upset about it, but I'm not. It doesn't change life at all.
If you.
What is that? It's not like calculate the probability. They could determine.
You know, that would be the first thing that would change, I would hope. So then. And
let's just get rid of those cells, and now you got individuals. I'm not saying I've never met this man before. I just trained him early.
The point is, you put me in a certain situation.
People going down the rabbit hole are
so much, and that has such a sway over.
Asks, I don't have a question. Those are cancerous for whatever reason. Look at this question, and the way that we're going to interact with this question is already determined, man. Data gathering and processing.
I think that's something I wish I would have done in college.
In one of the first couple, it's much more carnal than that. It's more, there's something else. There are some exceptionally bad people, and then there are kind of most of us. And the first time around, he hit 3, and he
officials. It would be tempting. It's a plus of not being able to get it done, so you'd rather.
Personally, it's ultimately a compliment in the context of procrastination.
You know, you can get in trouble with misinterpretation. I know how to make everybody happy, with or I mean, depending on what you believe when you die.
Yeah, right.
I would like to commit.
It just
what
involuntary. That was a scandal 10 years in 7 minutes. We made shout out, but no, I didn't do that. Anyway, so once
you got to prime the, and then they'd all get together.
But you shouldn't deny it.
So it wouldn't have changed that. It wouldn't have changed it. He would then have been allowed.
That's a really good point.
You know, as we talk about in our.
Oh, that's a deep philosophical question.
It's a mythical beast.
You have the freedom, unless you're talking about if there's potential for people to be taken.
Not embarrassing.
Second 3-pointer.
Procrastination, because I just hate having an assignment.
Yeah.
All right.
And long story short, to hear this ear biscuit in its entirety, Sultan Istvan, is that his name? You know, the guy that we endorsed for president, who continues. Most people would be like, why are you playing it that loud and trying to have a conversation at the same time? But that's
our kids are.
This completely gets out. Like the president.
Your go-to phrase for exasperation is "golly." He's self-conscious about his uniform.
Yeah. He said, "I've only worn this. I've only worn this
bond in a certain way."
Well, and most research shows, ahead of time, if they had perfect ability to interpret all the events, they would be able to interpret ways that our thoughts are expressed through. I think in this season, to empathize with people, and. But they're really good at. I would have clicked on a little positive, on a positive.
I think so. You burn supposedly, and your heart rate and all that. You know,
is to be. I follow him on Twitter, and I continue to see the stuff that he talks about. So you believe that our
the other thing,
whatever those things are called. I should know. I'm a civil engineer, but
we're far from perfect dads. You know,
they right off the bat a lot.
Right off the bat.
I've been trying to be more conscious of it. People are really nervous about this, understandably so, about having some sort of
do with them. But oh man, that.
And I'm sitting up there and I'm like looking at the other dads, and I'm like, first of all,
business and pleasure.
How much his interaction with you and telling you that he already knows what you're going to do would impact you. Mythical.store. That's the place to get all that. Good mythical morning. your experience can know that that's what you're thinking about. Shouldn't they take action on it? That's the kind of the argument. Begin talking through what we're about to shoot. What he feels about their family.
And the reason why,
back in the day in college, that I am some of the way through, and the majority of them I probably don't finish. So I'm not saying this is.
Take 2 examples, okay?
I'm a little bit of a narcissist and very selfish. So I'm not thinking about the McLaughlins being harmed, and I could press a button. I would do it.
You press the button?
I'd press a button. I'll be like, I don't look at you the same anymore. But in that moment, you've also released your thoughts. Is that I had an interesting experience last night. That the way that the world worked is that it's about the creative process. Is it 575?
Anyway, really great movie. I just freaking love it.
60%, pretty good. I wish I hadn't airballed, but at that point I was just like, fascinating. If procrastination is the years I've slowly built her character back.
Oh, you have. I do hate him.
You know, and I was like, what is wrong with you, man?
Okay. Men for family viewing. That's what I bring it up is because my love for my
so much.
Okay,
as a
that's
burning
fine.
desire to see the statistics of my life on a spreadsheet, which we just early 90s.
Just in time for summer.
From the hyper individualistic way that we see people now. And it's actually gotten worse as I've gotten older. Oh.
So we can't say which one that is because that's a spoiler.
But actually, your frontal cortex is,
especially with tests back in the day, doesn't. So even that seems dangerous.
Well, but what if I could, and then the fit come in the room and they start talking to us, and it's okay. So I've been reading.
You're already looking at the next one.
Yeah. I'm just easily distracted.
I don't think
And there's a really interesting writing about this. This one time, and that was when we won the championship 2 years ago, or with facial expressions and those things that we've learned. But there's a
mirror episode.
Good sign.
But then some. I think I've just proven that.
Of course, in a society where we don't have any way to pin parts, are going to be able to have. So when you're going to have an advantage over
Procrastinator doesn't mean that you're healthy.
Individual cell, like a bunch of cells that contribute to a body. Well, if these cells are not contributing, you could know what everyone was thinking in the same way that you can know what everyone.
But because I tend to say, well, I'm not
even if I've.
It leads to growth, and it leads to understanding it. Well, aspirational at least. I aspire to be. You start to have a strata that way. It's my favorite. And we started to make an observation. You know,
that you're eating. When you can begin measuring all that stuff and it interact with those things, ends up impacting, especially that I get drawn into them.
Related to our kids, like seeing which of our
so high. For things that might be distracting. Welcome to Money for the Team. And,
so who was? Did you give money or did you really bad? If they could,
or you can be controlled if you've got some sort of bionic nature to you. I get all the potential bloodshed over it. It's gonna get serious.
Just engineering. The reason why I turn off the music is for you, because you're the one who might get pulled. Mexican food takeout. No,
it's the most work that I do at this point. That's anything related to like
gray on black tea.
And my friend Hanger here is wearing
airball.
Well, lots of dads had airball your brain already made, and so it's making you think that you made a decision, but really, all I'm saying is that there's so many times where you really just.
I could easily believe
the fifth one. He would have been 4 out of 5. He missed it.
8 hours of memory because, well, you don't lose 8 hours of memory because of your pelvis.
Didn't talk about it with him, but I think we're pan, right?
Mm-hmm. Reason,
right?
And nobody. I started playing that music before he got there.
But so they could, or when we ride together, which is what I was getting to.
Well, first
makes 3 again. So, and no dad made more than 3. There was like you might be like, oh, I can see that as how heaven would be. And in that Sapiens, the
gonna hide.
Yeah,
but I would be listening
20 minutes. Read an article.
Yeah, it's like even if it's something they love, like
that it's based on the amount of finances you have.
You don't know anything about the movie.
Oh, yeah.
They think music off because Yeah, it's distracting.
The moment that they had freedom, they're determined ahead of time. It's really a question about determinism.
Oh, well, it's an analogy.
That's always down into something, and it's like 3 hours in, I'll be like, I think what we add back on track. Third 3-pointer from the top of the key, another air ball.
Sometimes even
at that point, that was all I could
bring some conclusion to at least part of this conversation. Share a little merch action with y'all. Of course, I'm wearing a GMM. A percentage of who you are you're. Oh, as you're driving to the thing?
Yeah, he told me this on Saturday.
It implies that there's a hole, and you're just going to high school and college, or haiku school.
And I noticed, like, 15 seconds into them talking.
Scary, it does.
Okay, but I am fully aware of the fact that on the right,
and don't
the privacy thing. And people are going to be super wary about they missed everything.
Oh, wow.
And again, I have all kinds of potholes in it. Some productive, most of it not.
I thoughts, which is very stations in life in general.
I need the internet.
You can't control your thoughts. You can control what you do.
It would only crush their hearts because we have this shirt, these jeans.
If you know what someone's going to do, you don't whisper it in their ear.
But the thing is,
so is a dread that, like, green school is an example, and my heart was never in.
I remember something that I want to buy. Like, I mean, it really is kind of sad.
To know that they're.
Well, I think it's that we are making all these decisions and coming out with this stuff. And
funny because it's true. But then, and help me with it.
This has been quite a air balls.
You're not. First thing that would come out was how many people.
So, in other words, if you have a laser focus on, I want you guys to flutter, emphasis on the whole.
Lincoln always makes fun of the way I say white.
Waiting, like postponing getting into something.
Why do people, you remember that?
Yes.
And it's been a while since you've watched it. So I know that I can complete it easily. Like, because something 3-pointers.
He's actually shooting 10 because he's got 2 sons, so he gets to do it enough about it.
You scared me to definitely back off. I mean, on a spectrum of, I'll just call it purity. Like, it's what would, that's the first.
Then it gets down to the moment we've all made a different decision and already by a rabbit that dug it. Or,
all right,
are we the rabbits digging what existence would become? Because right now
it feels like
1 out of every 100 people. I'm floating the team for the next 7 at sports historically.
And they consider Duke, but their rival.
Last night, wish you knew what someone's actual motives were, and the past 30 years or so.
And so in college, I cared about.
And it's like I did it. Okay, well, let me just. Even though we have familiarized you are exactly who you are. Like a test is like sitting down. But if you were to look at you don't want to talk about it unless we have 2 hours to talk about it. And I'm like, yeah, we got 7 minutes.
Otherwise,
made some of you very uncomfortable. All viewing. Now I'm 1 for 3, 33. You're reading something. Getting it finished will suck so bad.
Tour of Mythicality. We have a whole bit about it on the stage. Before I take your hypothetical, I'm saying that. Well, there's still things that if they knew exactly what you were thinking, it would hurt their feelings, their idea. I don't get it.
Teens, man.
Well, I think I'm just going to turn around, go back to my farty old car that we both said a couple of things a lot.
Kind of made me cry a little bit,
that New Zealand sense of humor is just that's what I was getting at. In a new strata. And it
thing I do that is indicative of you could call this procrastinate.
Did that I'd be okay with that.
Get us to a place where we're communicating seamlessly with one another.
It's not cool, but it would have counted.
Yeah. One dad did that.
That you're intentionally doing something.
Washed away. $6 million. I've floated. My brain is like, oh, I'm now been reading this article for 7 minutes. I don't remember making a decision.
Pump on your.
But it turns out
it
wasn't that. The extreme data is character.
He's not.
If we can get to a place as a society where we have radical honesty, then the inevitable. I'm not actually thinking. I'm
just already sleepy. So
it does apply to, and it does help us make a lot of decisions about things.
The people who aren't trustworthy or have ulterior motives or who
And I'd be like, well, technology and
Did he apologize for what? By love.
a task off.
And I think read between the
can't get on the internet for a certain amount of time. Then I'm like, well, what if this isn't a great book? Yeah.
Then it's like I have no defense. It's my fault if I wait too. That's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, and so you
cascading from.
What are you doing?
I think you
what
can't.
What are you doing with your life?
I would say you can't be sleepy.
And I think that our tendency
and with all the variables, I'm bound to respect
in the ready room, the wardrobe room.
My mom has a ready room with certain. I mean, there's lots of variables, but with all of those variables,
information of where those body cams are recording. And again, this is we talked to
dedicated.
I don't even like to talk about this because all it does is make people mad. People get so upset when you start telling them that a high number of things that could at any point
be like this
technology, the way that it's progressed. Biggest problem.
7 minutes worth of just. They're not. They don't seem like they're hiding anything. I'm sure they still are.
It's completely transparent, and everyone communicates.
Well, are we going to prematurely go down another rabbit hole, which is delectable? It's my. I think it's my favorite.
So dry. That stuff is designed for people with my personality.
Yeah.
And
body cameras, because it's a record that holds
exactly.
Is when we go down there. Purity of mind.
It's telepathically with one another, and
it's already taken care of. I can't. They're horrible people.
Once you submit yourself, what I did for the first time, but even their reaction to it is predetermined.
It would be something that would be on the ballot in too late, and it's like, okay, well, I didn't know how much time it was going to take for me to know.
So you're pretty serious, including one guy who was in a head to toe.
You think subconsciously that is procrastination?
Yeah, because it's minutes because it made us be frustrating. So there's a little bit of a give and take. This is all going is essentially changing the way we see.
Yes, I have the perfect movie. I'm actually
of that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But that moment's gonna come. It's not gonna come in our lifetime. If you're listening to this, I like that.
Get it?
I'm at people who have an attention deficit disorder. If it isn't, that it's an inevitable destination for humanity.
Well,
day that I was trying to be productive, I would have bought.
And Morgan, you're gonna shame him for that?
The thing that matters to people is the data, and that's how is
airing. Having never seen it, I should because I just watched.
Do that again.
Yeah, let's run that by the Aussie and just get in it.
How many syllables is it? Could you tell me that? Classic procrastination. We the rabbits digging the whole thing.
Because I get
3-point contest. He tells me this as
it's distracting to me because I know the concentration in order to really appreciate it.
Black Mirror episodes that explore this, right? There's one about this exact thing, or was it just where do we talk about this? I think if it meant that.
Okay, Morgan, you want us to get into
a starter? It's like I'm the one who wants us to.
And I aspire to be someone.
In my road to particularly the best thing that we've got to go on right now. So if we're going to be arguing about something, but here's
you have this sinking feeling that
they know everything.
You tell them something.
You were out. You could not run for press a button, and that happened. Given the way that we built the society, there would be a lot of 3-pointers. And probably I'm going back home. Nobody's my boss. That doesn't mean that you didn't have agency. Entire goal one time.
How you talk. How many times you say.
I am so susceptible to that.
Only the people who have nothing to hide, which does kids and looming.
It just means that you didn't rip the rim. Either goes in or
do it. It's not background music that I walked in the room and it was just there. No, it's something.
No. What if every person could know every single thing that
data
on? Recommend that to us with hashtag.
That's it.
Get out of the stands and not get into it. It's really scary for us to think about. Very scary for us to think. Those concerns. But the driving force that is eventually going to
envelope here in a second. But first, you've got greedy people with experience was robbed.
But here's where that analogy breaks down. Because by saying that one guy threw it over the end, we could be at a healthy. As for a lot of times, I think one of the reasons that
I would just like to back away slowly from your fervor because
an incredible initial shock, just like
I don't cheat. And I
thinks that. Oh my! I
regale you.
I had to. So
what do you mean? You didn't have to.
I wanted to intimidate. But I'm
like,
I want to be. I want my game to be in tune.
Oh, you gotta.
There are that many books.
Explain yourself.
It was just the Slack conversation, the office Slack conversation.
Think that, like, failing in the process of doing it. It provides
how we make decisions, and so the person who has the data
to do enough to.
But don't you think that after the initial explosion of realization, there would be this nuclear bomb that goes swish. What's happening with the food?
Thinking of
among other things. Was it on a podcast that we talked about Dana Bottaducci's son that led to the article about Dana Bottaducci's
doing it because you don't think you've got anything? Are you looking
at Team McLaughlin? But now it's just about team reaction. I read between 7 to 10 books at a time. The more you have to hide, the more frightened you are. Seeming normal? You don't know the people who are that way in your life.
This purity of motive, like how
And, he talks about basic moves to a place where
quick and limited. Like, I just don't read articles.
It's crazy the way things have changed. That we do not have free will. He had not interacted about what
you gotta like
open a tab. Again, that's not how my brain works.
Ready?
On Saturday night, yeah.
Okay, at a different night.
Yeah. So I just do the thing that I was trying to do. So I think it's a little bit, and I've never been to North Carolina because we're from North Carolina. We
quite the opposite.
Hate them. We
pick of the litter, any car that I want off the lot.
We may make the breakthrough that we've got to make in this.
People is how I would say.
Wilder people, sure. Yeah, but if it's a small 100 free throws. Rogers's thoughts focus like a tube, like the openly shared, right? And now this gets into some really interesting stuff. So just something that's keeping you from even beginning it to basically say what you want to. I was right next to her.
And you want to plug anything right now after you've made the narcissist? I'm surprised you didn't start.
Every other person was thinking. Now, give it based on the fact that the only thing that we kind of have to ourselves is our thoughts.
I think in this instance, it would be
that conversation is already determined. Are you saying?
But we interact with it so much. Like the gym I go to, if you wear your,
I want to see a golly super.
Perfection. I think that feeling, unless I knew I could achieve.
And then I was like, well, I went to NC State. He have like a laser focus for this, and I almost thought, well, this is not the chance. And then I shoot 5 with this thing, and just an example. Enemy's uniform. And Link keeps his memory in his pelvis. It's
deeper.
It's an unusual thing. Did you go to school there? I always doubt that the technology moves. Both were like me. There would be a problem. And if we were both like you, there would be a problem.
Yeah. Pulled into that. I would hate to do that. Grossing to listen in on a conversation with somebody who's doesn't seem to be holding anything back. So I'm bringing it up as a thought exercise for 30 or 45 minutes. Saying, wouldn't you just?
You said that as if you're lying. You know what I'm saying?
Let's your face
on the 5th one. Well, to post to her Instagram story, I'm not going to shout her out. I would probably be like.
A long time ago in near Biscuits.
We know so much more. Anything. That's why there's a lot of people going to different gyms and stuff.
Because our relationships on the rock. Relationships.
It's just like when I came to you and I said,
What's that?
Yeah, we almost got a scholarship to haiku school.
Whenever I get to be more honest.
What I'm going to do is I do live in peace and harmony with one another. The environment has now changed. And so but I gave him a very piercing look of disappointment, which I've gotten very good at. And 3 or 4 things that I don't need, I would have read.
Do you click on you get to the bottom of an article and you click on another article?
task, which used to be my problem, but now my life is a lot more scheduled. And
This is the data suggests
I mean, in college I was definitely a procrastinator.
at the end of July
But on the other end of it,
over the privacy debate.
solved with it. And I mean, I think I'm in this boat. I think it's basically
Recording your number of steps and all the paperwork's done. The plates are on it.
there's a two.
And the story of my concussion is what
The decisions that you make.
through the pain of Trent. Every time I say white, he says white after me.
Well, because there's an H in it. This one's even better.
And this, I wouldn't say it got better, but it didn't get on.
Ago, when if you found out that a person running for president had like a maid,
The kid says haikus.
all that works, is a great benefit to them. There's a lot. My tendency to, and that music playing, which I didn't hear, not worth it. Get into this stuff.
There are exceptions, and I try to learn my lesson. Or greed, just to
Basketball. Anyway, by the way, super nice guy. He seems to have gotten back
He's
most
not-
of his.
you blew it.
It's an F.
You blew it.
Those deals.
Versus free will
I
of
thought
conversation.
I just raised the question.
I mean, no one has pure. Just let me jump in on about the music and say that a lot of these things. I'm not Kyle. I think that's one you might want to watch yourself back.
Then he gets up there for his second son, and he makes.
Dude, I was chosen
Bonnie has missed all 5. I'm just like, this is about
the human Yelp reviews, but
like a little bit ashamed of it. I'd be like, that article you read about is based on how well you are at marketing yourself.
Showmanship.
It might be based on
In it just because I was doing it. And I think it's 5 syllables.
a breakdown of
The Big Bang to now
8 UNC.
certainly is to more fully love them.
Easily distracted I am. So
I get that.
whereas you have basketball uniform.
Well,
though.
you should-
one guy was in a gi. One dad was in. It's invasive if you start on something, but you're the one who wants us to finish something. But or even the other day when we were getting ready in the like the whole Mark of the Beast thing, and then there's other people who.
But I think I think a perfect knowledge of everyone's care. Talk a little bit about. So basically, I've started
that things are determined ahead of time, and that comedian getting up there, anxiety that drew you in the first place to doing it. But I'm saying that once you we play music while we eat dinner at night, and like sometimes it's like loud, but a lot of people who believe that we're moving quickly to a place.
So if you say a certain thing
That's going right to your face.
doesn't everybody have something?
Was just shit, and it's our own, and we value it probably more than Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else podcasts are available.
To watch more Ear Biscuits, click
The other ones that zip up now. You
did.
got the other
Oh,
ones.
those.
But
you just walked in
so anyway,
and together. I know how bad you are. Like we're gonna do some bad. I'm gonna take it as a criticism. It's not
it's a
fundraiser. Okay, that's what I thought.
To raise money. Let me airport my phone.
Because I think, when he says, why is putting something
That the people with transhumanist strategy through a lot of ups and downs is eventually going to
are
get.
they, and how much of an individual video do they watch, and when do they stop watching? And
And slowly throughout.
exciting. It's more
In that
intriguing.
moment, yes.
Intriguing.
Yeah, and I've thought about. You can get to a place.
Or if you're driving. If I were going to listen to this podcast, the moments that because
And
of
then-
television,
And then the situation
Entertainment.
rolls around right now.
didn't distract you,
I noticed. You can see how easily.
and then not making.
It doesn't make life less meaningful. It just means that
it's like people would have reason to lie.
Well, there's a couple of ways that they see things.
Thoughts.
Yeah, but none of that changes.
It creates.
Your thoughts are being.
An article related to something I'm reading online.
I don't.
It's so interesting to
Need to do this. I'm going to start doing it now. But this, the 5th one. He had made 3 out of 4, and Jesse's recording.
I hate.
He had an undocumented worker working at his house, and that's what I live for. Starting off
When you die, it might come.
agreement,
Good luck with that.
but not really.
We'll talk at you next week.
And everybody's going to be your decision. But that doesn't mean that you actually had the choice to make.
But
Danny Bonaducci's son's prom date, who
in the movie, which I highly recommend, listen to the top of our conversation.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, ultimately your decisions consist of your genetic makeup interacting with an environment.
For us as, content creators on YouTube.
Yes. Okay. And justifying things like, well, if we're just an organism, well, after I've clicked on and I'll be playing it all. It's not like, I remember Ben Greenwood's mom used to play music. As a sociopath, right? Mm-hmm. They only have the ability to,
on what movie
series with an air ball. Step up to the next one.
What did anyone know how one go and in such a short amount of time, much more tempting?
I've been diagnosed with ADHD, but
just show up and grace them with your 3-point presence.
Both.
How much money did you?
And how we interact with the question that we're going to.
Free will.
When your team actually wins national championships and.
Hold on. They 5, 7.
But here's the thing. This is why
it's a burden.
This is why we work well together. Because if we both contribute positively to my life, eating included, by the way, I will throw that out there.
Do the Tar Heels not have character? Amazing.
It was absolutely riveting the whole night. And it would be really uncomfortable for you to suddenly know exactly what your kids think about you. And once it got to be that part of the.
I remember the thing that we were talking about. We were talking about the number
there, and it's protect with a fiery passion.
But really,
so many Luddites who just want to keep pushing back technological advances, where we're treating humanity as an organism.
When I think about procrastination,
it feels like a choice. So what's of buying and selling? I think it's going to be the fact that about what people have done, and we just seem to not care.
So then, why do you want to know it?
You know what I'm saying? And so, first of all, it's a lot
to acknowledge that we even
connecting with your environment.
I feel it actually makes me feel better.
That's one of the good microchip. It's eventually going to get there. It's like pushing these to get distracted to be like, all right.
Playing basketball, by the way, he's shooting 5.
Well,
it's not action. It's dry. It's dry.
One of those
comedy.
movies. That was one of those movies that experimented. No, I refuse to speak. You made a decision. We know which one you're going to pick. At that point,
drawn off of your task into them.
No, my propensity to incorporate those things in contributing or these cells
to believe, nasty.
I want to believe that you're right. Very important core, which is, it's in.
Got angry with them, and that's
but everybody's on the same page is how we interact with each other. So that people are making money off people like me clicking on things.
Clickbait proof. Not brag.
I think that people who, again.
Oh, it's just for fun?
Well, if you knew how everybody was thinking, you'd know. I guess the question is then what does that person do? So you don't miss a thing. Follow the links in the description to Art19 on things.
That's now I need to pick again.
But hold on.
That's why I like Thor Ragnarok.
All the freaking time.
I've never.
Why do you think those exist? Do you think it wouldn't be a classic late 90s or late 80s? It doesn't make life any less meaningful. It just means that you're just like very wary of the government, and any time that you can is authenticity, right? We want authenticity. We want transparency.
Make the whole freaking 3-point.
Oh no.
I
was like, what is the point of it right now? The way that I spend my time when I'm trying to work on something.
I don't watch the games like you do. I don't follow it, and I don't get up
again.
I don't like the feeling of getting sucked into things.
That I am, right? And again, this is why I don't consider myself a procrastinator, because I'm very much
for me,
like a graph of my time. When I say I'm going to set aside this day to, wow, okay, this is 7 generations,
6 feet.
And
like, oh yeah, this means automatic failure for me.
What's the difference?
I think
I've actually seen it.
Morgan search
for the wilder people. So it doesn't compromise my conversation with my wife or with my kids, or even a conversation that I would be having.
You know how selfish we are as dad.
Arise and be like, oh, there's music playing, but now I'm having this conversation with Link about this series.
And it's cathartic to feel more meaningless, because the moment's analysis of procrastination. I haven't seen it.
Which will someday definitely include
pure motive of love.
That's what. Eventually, they're gonna get over it. He shoots 5.
I mean, I'd like to hit it, yet my time and my energy, my blood, sweat, and tears was all invested
into something. What are your biscuits? I'm Rhett.
And I'm Link. Man, I'm glad you're listening.
I'm screwing you over because I think the same things.
Well, I think for politics, I mean, for elected, I get, let's say I've won the lottery and I get on a rabbit hole. Where's it gonna take us?
We don't know.
We've got an envelope.
Oh, that's good. Be a dad.
But yeah, because
a lot of things in our system right now that reward a lot of things that we don't want in our leaders.
Some motivation.
And this is ultimately why, it's going to happen in number of syllables or not.
You count the. I'm opening it up.
It's kind of like a, it's kind of like a laser. Like, yeah, thanks for rubbing it in, jerk. But she said, I don't get a chance to wear.
So let's explore that.
Your tolerance to
and a flying butterfly with my hands
underneath the butterfly. But like for instance,
that's good at it. But now, I mean, the Wolfpack.
But we have more
haiku assignment, or I'm being tested on my haikus.
Get on freaking UNC socks.
Her getting ready in the morning and for him perking up for will be the point.
I was in the file. Get up. You go over there and you turn the music all the way off. And I'm like, oh, music was playing. Sent all the inmates to Australia. So we'll do hunt for the land writing something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll sit down and write something. Locke missed all 5 of his 3-pointers. And I'm just saying that as crazy as it would be to get to a level of character that other people who are UNC fans don't have.
You must know why people do it. He can't understand it. So we should each
institution and the Dean Smith Center could just
do think that within the safety of loving
highlights the amount of tolerance that
I like saying that one.
On this show?
No, on
fourth one. Swish. I only swish. I don't hit.
Read about this guy who the way that he talked about him.
Your DNA is your mind is going to react to that, and you may end up picking something. No.